Hey there, and welcome back. Today, sort of a follow-up Q&A video. A little while back, I addressed the first question I get from people who are interested in moving up and getting a better camera, and what kind of camera should I get. And I really didn't make a recommendation. I talked about there's a lot of things that you should consider, and your camera choice is going to be based on your needs and wants. And then I went through some of the things that, some of the features and functions you might want to look at. So the next question I get is, all right, with all that, so what's the best kind of camera to get? So that's going to be what I talk about today, is just a quick overview of the camera brands and which one is the best. And spoiler alert, they're all good. But let's talk about each of the brands, what they offer, and what you should think about when you're considering buying a high quality camera. So without any further ado.
Battalion 2, engines, 11, 27, 7, and 22, Investigator 1, Ladder 27, and Safety 1, House Fire, CO1 Maple Street, Army, Echo, Battalion 2, engines, 11, 27.
You want to get a better camera, there's a lot of choices out there. Maybe I could help by narrowing down the brands. And again, I would tell you that they're all good nowadays. You're probably not going to go wrong. Each of them has their strengths and probably their weaknesses, and a lot of it is personal preference. But, just a quick overview of what's out there. Probably first, the biggest market share is probably Canon cameras. They make both DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. They're probably the biggest fish in the pond, if you will. Second and third is probably Nikon and Sony, not necessarily in that order. They probably switch back and forth. And then they sort of go down from there. Fujifilm is probably the fourth. Panasonic with their Lumix brand is there. And then there are other manufacturers going on from there. But those are probably the five biggest. And with all of this stuff, again, remember, you're not just buying a camera, but you need lenses that will work with the camera. You need equipment and accessories that are going to go with it. So you want to get something that's going to be sustainable if you want to go forward. And you may want to think about if you want to step up in quality down the road. You don't want to make some of your current equipment antiquated or unusable. So that is also something to think about, is where you're going to go with it. Again, just as a reminder, cameras and lenses are specific to each other. You can't just put a Nikon lens on a Sony camera. It won't work properly. There are adapters you can buy, but you're always going to be better off, I think, using native lenses, or at least lenses that were designed for it. So if you got a third-party lens that was designed for your Nikon camera or your Fujifilm camera, those are going to work better. So keep that in mind as you start looking at cameras and accessories. The other thing someone told me early on, and I thought this was probably a true statement, is you date your cameras, but you marry your lenses. A good quality lens is going to be good and usable for 10, 15 years. Camera technology is changing. They're going to get better and better. And so it's not unusual that after just maybe a couple of years, you're ready to step up and get the next best camera, the newest technology, the next greatest thing. And that's fine. We all get caught up in that. I'm looking at new cameras myself now. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that the lenses you have can also work with the newer equipment. So that's another thing to think about. Lenses are obviously important to the overall picture quality. And so, they're going to last longer. Make sure, get good quality lenses and lenses you can grow with. So let's just look at each of the major brands and look at sort of their significant areas they cover or the equipment they're producing or the types of cameras. And again, they're all a little different, and a lot of it is going to be preference. And I'll try and talk about some of that as we go through each of the brands. Okay, so we'll start our look at camera brands with looking at Canon. Canon has the largest market share of digital camera sales. Back in 2022, Canon had almost 50% of all the digital cameras sold on the global market. Like most of the manufacturers, Canon produces a variety of cameras, including they have the old standard DSLR, single lens reflex design, the camera based on the old 35mm camera that was so popular back prior to digital imaging coming about. They also have a line of mirrorless cameras, which is the newer technology that most of the major manufacturers are moving to. And they also produce a line of compact cameras. While I always talk about the DSLR market being the older market and a place to get some good deals, you can still spend a lot of money, as you can see from the Canon website. Like most manufacturers, I don't think they're going to be producing a whole lot of new DSLR cameras in the future, but the ones they have are very good cameras. The other thing they do is they have both, obviously, full frame and crop sensor, and some of the most popular cameras they have are their old Canon Rebel lines, if you will. And those were relatively inexpensive crop sensor cameras that were ideal for beginners or entry level. They're relatively inexpensive, but still produce good quality images, and you can even buy them as sort of a complete kit with a nice lens assortment. It's a nice way to get started for not a whole lot of money and be getting some good quality equipment. On the mirrorless side, Canon also makes some really nice equipment, ranging from $4,000 or $5,000 down to around $1,000 for a decent camera body. They produce both crop sensor and full frame. Usually the crop sensor cameras have the 2-digit number after the letter, and the full frames, the R5, R6, have the single digit after the letter. On the more entry-level side of the spectrum for Canon cameras, they do have a couple of nice options. The R10 is a crop frame camera, and usually you can find that with a decent lens for under $1,000. They also have the new RP body, which is actually a full frame sensor, and you can typically find that for $1,000, maybe under, depending on sales. So again, depending on where you want to go and how you envision yourself in the market, those might be some nice starting out options if you think Canon is the brand you want to go with. Canon is the biggest market share manufacturer out there. So you'd be getting into a relatively stable environment or camera systems with a lot of room to grow and hopefully a lot more potential models and innovation coming from Canon in the future. Okay, next up is Sony. Sony is, again, the number 2 manufacturer when it comes to global sales. However, they are quickly catching up, and in fact, full-frame mirrorless camera lineup is now the best-selling camera in that market. Sony has been kind of a technology leader. Sony cameras are known for their exceptional sensors, their high-quality autofocus systems, and even as I was doing some research to make this video, they came out with their A9 with the global shutter instead of the old rolling shutter, which allows for even faster shutter speeds. They also produce a wide range of quality camera lenses. All of this does come with a price. If you wanted to get the new Sony A9 III with the global shutter, plan on spending about $6,000 for that camera. Fortunately, you don't have to spend that kind of money to get a good quality Sony digital camera. Their Alpha 6000 series compact cameras, which are crop sensor cameras, are excellent cameras, small, lightweight, and you can typically get those for under $1,000. If you want to go the full frame route with Sony, starting out, you're probably spending at least $1,000, and you're looking at their A7 lineup of cameras. Sony produces several variations of the A7, and they're really all about the features that they load into each of those cameras. And an A7 can start around $1,000 and get up to $4,000 or $5,000, depending on what features you want to add or you want in your camera. On a personal note, if money were no object, and just to be clear, money is an object, but if money were no object, I would probably be looking at a Sony A7 as my camera of choice. Next up, coming in third in market share, is Nikon. Nikon has actually been around for more than 100 years, and they currently produce high quality mirrorless DSLR and compact cameras. Going back to the film days, Nikon camera and lenses have long enjoyed a reputation for being extremely high quality. Their compact cameras, i.e. their Coolpix camera line, are small, compact, good quality cameras that might be good for someone interested in getting into photography. However, they feature fixed lenses, which can be a significant limitation as you start to advance. My recommendation has always been to purchase a camera that allows you to have interchangeable lenses and can control the settings all the way to a fully manual setup for the camera. That would put you in either a Nikon DSLR or their new mirrorless cameras, the Z series. Nikon's DSLR cameras are excellent, and they go back to when Nikon was building single lens reflex cameras for film. Again, if you want to spend money, you can. Their top of the line DSLRs, their D5s or D6 cameras will run you more than $6,000. However, they do make several less expensive options, and you can certainly get a good quality Nikon DSLR for under $1,000. I believe Nikon, like a lot of the other camera manufacturers, is going to be focusing more on their mirrorless lineup, and you won't see much new coming out in their DSLR cameras. Nikon produces both full frame and crop sensor cameras in their mirrorless camera line, and you can purchase a good quality crop sensor camera for under $1,000. If you want to go full frame, their entry-level full-frame camera is probably their Z5. That starts around $1,000. And you can work all the way up to their top-of-the-line Z9, which will cost you more than $5,000. I have long been a fan of Nikon cameras. My first SLR film camera was a Nikon camera. And when I was running the police department's crime scene unit, we equipped all our technicians with Nikon film cameras because of the quality and reliability of their camera equipment. When I retired and was looking to get back into photography, my first instinct was to purchase Nikon equipment. It was only after I decided to sit back and do a little research and see exactly what I wanted to do with my photography that I made the choice I did, and that was to go to a Fujifilm camera. With that smooth segue, let's talk about Fujifilm. Fujifilm is fourth in market share, with their sales making up a little less than 6% of the total global market. As the name would imply, Fujifilm got their start in the film market, producing high-quality films as well as film developing and photo processing equipment. In the late 1980s, Fuji began developing cameras in partnership with Nikon, and by 2010 introduced their own sensor technology and several new lines of digital cameras. Fuji's approach to the digital camera market is a little different than the big three manufacturers, with the primary difference being that Fuji doesn't have a full-frame digital camera. Instead, they focused in on crop sensor cameras and developing a medium format digital camera. Their cameras also typically feature more traditional control dials as opposed to most modern DSLR or mirrorless cameras, which feature the PASM dial. The PASM dial is just an acronym for the letters that appear on most modern digital cameras for the different modes. P as in program, A for aperture priority, S for shutter priority, and then M for fully manual. As a result of these design choices, Fujifilm has developed cameras that are typically smaller and lighter than the traditional DSLR and even many of the new mirrorless cameras. And because they are often retro in appearance with their old style command dials, they have developed a loyal following of Fujifilm camera users. And in truth be told, I am one of those followers. So with Fujifilm not having a full-size, full-frame sensor, you can either go with their medium format sensor in their GFX line or a crop sensor camera. Their GFX cameras are designed for professional photographers and can be pretty pricey. Their top-of-the-line crop sensor cameras start at around $2,000, although you can get good quality entry-level crop sensor cameras for around $1,000. Fujifilm builds cameras based on a more traditional SLR look, as well as cameras that are modeled after the old viewfinder style cameras. When I was doing research into purchasing a mirrorless camera, I was attracted to the Fujifilm cameras because of the retro look, the command dials that work similar to the old film cameras, and their smaller size. I was also drawn to the fact that their top-of-the-line crop sensor cameras were fairly reasonably priced, at least when it comes to mirrorless cameras. One of the things that I haven't really talked about so far in this video is the video feature or function of many of these cameras. And I will start by saying I am not a big video person and don't like or really enjoy videoing as much as I like still photography. However, all of these cameras that I've discussed so far have video capability, and some are very good at video. But if video is important to you, I would remind you to check out our fifth largest camera manufacturer by market share, and that would be Panasonic and their Lumix brands of cameras. While Panasonic only accounts for about 4% of the global digital camera market, they are known for their video technology and produce great cameras with excellent video capabilities. Like many of the other manufacturers, Panasonic produces both full-frame digital cameras as well as crop sensor cameras. Their full-frame digital cameras, the S series, starts at under $2,000 for a camera body. Their crop sensor cameras, the G series, can be had for less than $1,000. This might be a great option for someone trying to get into photography and videography on a relatively tight budget. So that's kind of a quick look at each of the major manufacturers and what's available from them, some of the strengths and weaknesses. I guess in total fairness, I'll tell you what I like and what I use. I like the Fujifilm cameras. That's what I'm personally using down the road. I'd love to get one of the GFX larger format cameras. Might need to save up a little money. But their X system cameras I really enjoy for a couple of reasons. I got into it, one, because I thought their video was supposed to be pretty good. As it turns out, I'm not a big video fan, so I don't use it that much. I am videoing this on a Fujifilm camera, though. I like the look, the retro look. They have cameras that have sort of the modern digital controls, what we refer to as the PASM dial, where you can set it to aperture priority, shutter priority, manual. And my XS10 is one of those. But a lot of their cameras, and I think a lot of their popular stuff, has the old camera controls where you can individually set the shutter and the aperture and the ISO. I have an XT1 and I really like that. I thought that was going to be helpful to me because I came from film and I understood those concepts. So I enjoy using that type of camera system. Their X system is crop sensor. I'm okay with that. I'm getting good quality images from it. It makes the cameras a little smaller and lighter, and that was important to me. I'm walking around with it, whether I'm out on scenes or visiting stations. So I didn't want some of those older style DSLRs or the full frames. They're big cameras. And like I said, at a scene, I could be walking around with it for an hour or two. So I like the smaller, lighter camera. And I like the sort of the retro look that they have. So I'm kind of a fan of that. I've been very happy with my Fujifilm cameras. Like I said, I'm not sure I see myself changing other than maybe going to their GFX line at some point. But I'm not sure that's really necessary either. So that wraps up another Q&A video where the answer probably wasn't exactly what you were looking for. But the reality is all of these camera manufacturers today are producing really good cameras, and you're probably not going to go wrong with any of them. It's really a matter of where you want to be and where you see yourself going in 5 or 10 years. So I hope this video helped. If you have any more specific questions or comments or thoughts on this, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. As always, I would ask that you like and subscribe, and we'll just see you on the next Q&A video. Bye.